By the end of the 11th century, the Islamic world was fractured. The Fatimid Caliphate controlled Egypt and Jerusalem, while the Seljuk Turks, recent converts to Islam, dominated much of Anatolia and the Levant. The Byzantine Empire, though weakened, still held Constantinople and remnants of former glory. And in the Latin West, a new fervor began to rise. It began with a call. In November 1095, Pope Urban II stood before a crowd in Clermont, France, and spoke of distant Christians suffering under the hand of the Turks. He called for aid, not simply to protect fellow believers, but to liberate Jerusalem. His words lit a fire. What followed was not just a military campaign, but a spiritual pilgrimage. A crusade. Tens of thousands answered the call. Knights, peasants, nobles, monks. Some sought salvation. Others, land or riches. Most were moved by a sense of purpose, a belief that reclaiming Jerusalem was a sacred duty. They sewed crosses onto their garments. They left homes and families. They marched east. The journey was brutal from the start. Many died crossing Europe. Others fell in battles along the way. Yet through hardship and horror, the Crusader armies pressed on, converging at Constantinople in 1096 and 1097. The Byzantine Emperor, Alexios I Komnenos, was wary but aided them, hoping to reclaim lost lands. The Crusaders pledged oaths to him, though not all would honor them. They fought their way through Asia Minor, capturing cities like Nicaea and winning battles such as Dorylaeum. At Antioch, they endured a grueling 8-month siege, nearly starving before finally breaking through. Afterward, they themselves were besieged, until a supposed relic, the Holy Lance, inspired a desperate charge that routed their enemies. From there, they continued south. The land grew harsher. Supplies dwindled. Many deserted. But those who remained grew hardened, shaped by hunger, death, and devotion. By the summer of 1099, they stood before Jerusalem. The city that had lived in their prayers, their songs, their dreams. A city held by the Fatimids. A city that would not be taken without a final, desperate fight. And so, the siege began. What lies between a dream and its fulfillment is rarely a straight path. From Constantinople, the Crusaders crossed into Asia Minor, a landscape of heat, dust, and uncertainty. The plains stretched wide, broken only by rocky hills and distant mountain ridges. Their destination, Jerusalem, was still far away, but each day brought them closer. And with each step, the reality of this holy journey revealed itself to be something far more brutal. They passed through lands inhabited by people who did not cheer their arrival. Some local populations saw them as invaders. Others, simply as trouble. Sometimes they were attacked. Sometimes they were charged for passage. Other times, they were watched from a distance by villagers who vanished into the hills when the marching began. Battles marked their journey like wounds across a map. At Nicaea, they faced the Seljuk Turks. The city was well defended. The siege lasted weeks. Arrow volleys, fiery assaults, whispered prayers in the night. And then, at last, the city fell. But the Crusaders were not allowed to loot it. The Byzantine Emperor Alexios claimed the prize. Tension built. Soon after, at Dorylaeum, they were ambushed. Panic. Screams. The sun burned overhead as chaos erupted across the hills. But reinforcements arrived. The Crusaders pushed back. Another victory. Another miracle, some said. The march continued. Through Anatolia, through valleys that offered no shade, and towns stripped of food. Some died from exhaustion. Some from illness. Others simply vanished, lost or taken or turned back. They ate what they could find. Boiled leather. Grass. Occasionally, horse meat. Every few days, another grave. They reached Antioch in late 1097. The city was vast and fortified. The siege lasted nearly 8 months. Hunger became a constant companion. They dug tunnels, launched attacks, and yet the walls held. Morale collapsed. Some knights abandoned the cause. Others turned on each other. Inside the city, defenders suffered just as much. Food ran out. Disease spread. But then, a gate was opened in secret. A traitor led a Crusader band inside. The city was taken. But the ordeal was not over. A Muslim relief army soon surrounded Antioch. The Crusaders, now besieged themselves, were trapped and starving. They prayed for deliverance. Some claimed divine visions. One man claimed to find the Holy Lance, the spear said to have pierced Christ's side, buried beneath a church. Hope surged. The Crusaders rallied. They charged from the gates and defeated the enemy. Another miracle. Another sign that their path was blessed. They rested, rebuilt, and prepared for the final leg of the journey. Through Syria, where the heat was dry and sharp. Through ruined towns and contested lands. Sometimes welcomed by local Christian communities. Sometimes met with silence and closed doors. They walked through sandstorms. They slept under olive trees. They buried more friends. And then, after months of movement, after years of war, they reached it. In June of 1099, Jerusalem rose before them on the horizon. The city of promises. The goal of so many prayers. For a moment, all was quiet. The sun reflected off the stone walls. Birds flew overhead. A breeze carried the scent of nearby fig trees. But there was no time for wonder. The Crusaders were exhausted. Their numbers had dwindled. Of the many thousands who set out, only a fraction remained. They pitched tents outside the city. The siege would begin. Soon. Inside the city, the Fatimid garrison prepared. Their banners flew from the towers. Their archers took position. The people waited, uncertain of what was to come. And so, the long road ended here, at the gates of Jerusalem, beneath a burning sun, in the silence before the storm. The Crusaders encircled Jerusalem, their feet blistered, their armor rusted with sweat and dirt, their supplies dangerously low. It is July, and the sun over the Judean hills shows no mercy. The land around the city is dry and stony. There are no rivers, no natural sources of water. The few springs nearby are either guarded or nearly depleted. The Crusaders ration what little they have. Wine is mixed with water. Animals are slaughtered early, their meat dried and salted. Bread turns to mold. And still, they wait. The city stands silent but watchful. Its walls are high and well fortified, recently reinforced by the Fatimids who now control it. From the towers, guards survey the besieging army. The defenders are prepared. They have provisions, archers, catapults. They also have motivation, they know what happened in Antioch. For the Crusaders, the siege is not just military. It is spiritual. Priests organize processions around the walls. Barefoot pilgrims chant psalms under the scorching heat. Crosses are raised on hills. Men weep as they stare at the city they believe to be God's own. Many had dreamed of this moment. Now it is real, and unreachable. Wood is scarce, but towers must be built. Scouts scour the countryside, felling trees from as far as 20 miles away. Logs are dragged back by oxen, by hand, sometimes lashed together with scraps of cloth and rope. Siege engines are constructed slowly. They creak and groan under the strain of makeshift craftsmanship. The defenders launch preemptive strikes. One night, a sortie burns down an entire siege platform. Arrows fly day and night. Wounded soldiers are treated in tents with whatever herbs and bandages remain. Diseases spread. The camp stinks of unwashed bodies and rot. And yet, the Crusaders persist. On July 8th, a massive prayer march is held. Thousands of Crusaders, led by barefoot priests, circle the city walls in silence, weeping and praying, calling down divine favor. Some believe they saw visions in the sky. Others collapse from exhaustion. The siege towers are nearly finished now. In the middle of it all, a man named Arnulf works silently, day after day, shaping wooden beams for the siege towers. He is not a knight, nor a priest. A carpenter from Normandy, he joined the crusade to escape debt and dishonor. But here, in the dust and heat, he has found something close to redemption. His hands are cracked and bleeding. He sharpens his tools on rocks. When others rest, he keeps working. He never expects to enter the city. He only wants to finish the tower. For Arnulf, this is his altar. Inside the city, the atmosphere shifts. Civilians grow anxious. Markets are shuttered. Wells are guarded. Food is rationed. Rumors spread, of massacre, of vengeance, of miracles. Then, as the moon waxes, the assault is scheduled. July 13th. The towers are moved into position under the cover of night. Soldiers sharpen swords. Archers check their quivers. The air is tense, thick with heat and anticipation. Some crusaders fast. Others write final letters. Most simply pray. And when the dawn breaks on the 13th day of July, the siege of Jerusalem truly begins. At first light on July 13th, the assault begins. Siege towers creak forward, pulled by ropes and sheer human force. Shields raised, archers positioned, the crusaders push through waves of arrow fire. Fatimid defenders unleash stones, fire, and bolts. From the city walls, boiling oil is poured. Flames lick at wooden frames. Screams echo. Yet the towers move. On the northern wall, near the gate of St. Stephen, a group of knights led by Godfrey of Bouillon makes progress. They've spotted a weakness, an older section of wall, hastily repaired. With battering rams and scaling ladders, they press forward. Fatimid reinforcements flood the battlements. The fighting becomes hand-to-hand. Sword against scimitar. Wood splintering. Blood soaking into dust. By midday, a crusader manages to leap onto the wall. He is cut down instantly, but more follow. Then more. And finally, with a roar that mixes triumph and exhaustion, the wall is breached. Crusaders pour into the city. Panic erupts. Fatimid soldiers retreat inward, regrouping near the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Civilians flee. Some hide in churches, others in underground cisterns, cellars, or behind barred doors. But the fury of the Crusaders, stoked by years of hardship and religious fire, is now unrestrained. The streets of Jerusalem run red. The Dome of the Rock is seized. The Al-Aqsa Mosque becomes a base. Knights ride through narrow alleys, cutting down any who resist, or any who run. Fires begin in the Jewish quarter. Cries of terror rise from all corners. Mercy is rare. Even children are not spared. Some crusaders weep as they kill. Others sing psalms. A few fall to their knees in prayer in the midst of the bloodshed. Arnulf the carpenter, having somehow survived the chaos of the wall, walks through the gate he helped breach. He sees horror on every side, families cut down, bodies piled in doorways. He does not lift a sword. He only stares. He wanders through familiar streets turned unfamiliar, past markets now littered with corpses, through doorways blasted open. He passes a chapel, its threshold soaked in blood. In the distance, a crusader is vomiting, his armor spattered. Arnulf hears him muttering a prayer, or maybe a confession. Another man kneels, weeping beside a child's body. There is no glory here, only weight. The chaos continues into the evening. Fires rage unchecked in several quarters. Horses, panicked, bolt through the streets. Shouts echo from towers, from alleys, from rooftops. Survivors huddle in corners, hoping to be mistaken for the dead. At the Al-Aqsa Mosque, Godfrey himself arrives. His armor is scratched and dented. He is surrounded by knights, but his eyes carry fatigue, not triumph. He surveys the damage, gives orders to secure the building, and allows a priest to enter and cleanse the space. Soon, it will be rededicated. By nightfall, the city is theirs. Bells are rung. Crosses are raised. Fires are doused. Bodies lie everywhere. The holy city, Jerusalem, is taken. But the cost, the memory, the silence after, will linger. And in the darkness, beneath the golden dome, the moon watches in silence. Somewhere beneath the city, in a small, stone-walled storeroom, a girl named Layla clutches her younger brother. They do not speak. They simply listen, to the horses, to the prayers, to the world they no longer recognize. Morning breaks over Jerusalem, and with it comes an eerie stillness. The echoes of battle have faded, replaced by the low murmur of wind through scorched streets and the creaking of broken doors. Smoke hangs in the air, mixing with the scent of blood and ash. The Crusaders, many of whom have not slept in days, wander through the city in dazed silence. Some pray. Some search for comrades. Others sit and stare, hollow-eyed, unsure of what they've won. Godfrey of Bouillon, now hailed as the defender of the Holy Sepulchre, refuses the title of king. He claims he will not wear a crown of gold where Christ wore a crown of thorns. Instead, he takes up leadership with caution, establishing control with the help of Raymond of Toulouse and other senior commanders. The city must be stabilized. The wounded treated. The streets cleared. Orders are issued: secure food supplies, guard the gates, and prevent looting of churches. But chaos lingers. Fires smolder in alleyways. Corpses remain unburied. The sun bakes the stones, releasing the stench of decay. Few Fatimid defenders survived, and among the remaining population, Muslims, Jews, and Eastern Christians, fear is absolute. Many remain hidden. Those found are often imprisoned or driven out. Some are pressed into labor. Others simply disappear. Within days, clergy from Europe begin to arrive at holy sites. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre is reconsecrated. Pilgrims weep as they enter. Latin priests chant hymns in echoing chambers. Candles are lit. Crosses raised anew. To some, it feels like divine restoration. To others, a desecration. In the shadow of the dome of the rock, Arnulf walks in silence. He has not returned home. He sleeps beneath broken arches. At night, he carves wood in silence, crafting small crosses and figures. He speaks to no one. When asked his name, he simply nods. He has begun to visit a small courtyard where the dead are gathered. He helps bury them, Muslim and Christian alike. He marks each grave with a stone. Elsewhere, the Crusaders begin debating the shape of their new kingdom. Lands must be divided. Castles manned. Routes secured. Some knights wish to return home, their vows fulfilled. Others see opportunity, fiefs to claim, trade to dominate, glory to preserve. Godfrey convenes councils to decide governance, but tensions rise between factions. The vision of unity begins to fray. Meanwhile, Jerusalem itself breathes in fragments. The Jewish quarter is abandoned. Synagogues lie in ruins. The Muslim population has been scattered. In hidden corners, a few Eastern Christian families light incense and whisper prayers. Life does not resume, it limps. One afternoon, a boy named Yusef is pulled from a collapsed cellar by Crusader foot soldiers. Starved and silent, he clutches a leather pouch with family relics. A soldier gestures to kill him. Another stops him. They argue in Latin. Eventually, the boy is taken to a nearby convent where a nun offers him bread and water. He does not speak for days. When he finally does, it is a single word: Jerusalem. As days pass, the blood is washed from the temple stones, but the stain remains in memory. The Crusaders now hold the city, but holding a city is not the same as healing it. The gates are manned. the walls reinforced. Scouts report of Fatimid reinforcements gathering in the south. The threat is not over. Still, each evening, as the sun sinks behind the Mount of Olives, a strange quiet returns. Bells ring from Latin churches. Psalms rise in fractured harmony. A wind carries the voices across rooftops where ravens perch. The sky, once filled with fire and smoke, is now streaked with red and gold. In the ruins of a garden near the northern wall, Layla and her brother emerge from hiding. They walk among broken stone and shattered pottery. She tells him stories of what the city once was. Of markets full of voices. Of olive trees and lanterns. He listens with wide eyes, not knowing if they will stay or flee. The crusade has ended. But for Jerusalem, it is only the beginning. Morning breaks over Jerusalem, and with it comes an eerie stillness. The echoes of battle have faded, replaced by the low murmur of wind through scorched streets and the creaking of broken doors. Smoke hangs in the air, mixing with the scent of blood and ash. The Crusaders, many of whom have not slept in days, wander through the city in dazed silence. Some pray. Some search for comrades. Others sit and stare, hollow-eyed, unsure of what they've won. Godfrey of Bouillon, now hailed as the defender of the Holy Sepulchre, refuses the title of king. He claims he will not wear a crown of gold where Christ wore a crown of thorns. Instead, he takes up leadership with caution, establishing control with the help of Raymond of Toulouse and other senior commanders. The city must be stabilized. The wounded treated. The streets cleared. Orders are issued: secure food supplies, guard the gates, and prevent looting of churches. But chaos lingers. Fires smolder in alleyways. Corpses remain unburied. The sun bakes the stones, releasing the stench of decay. Few Fatimid defenders survived, and among the remaining population, Muslims, Jews, and Eastern Christians, fear is absolute. Many remain hidden. Those found are often imprisoned or driven out. Some are pressed into labor. Others simply disappear. Within days, clergy from Europe begin to arrive at holy sites. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre is reconsecrated. Pilgrims weep as they enter. Latin priests chant hymns in echoing chambers. Candles are lit. Crosses raised anew. To some, it feels like divine restoration. To others, a desecration. In the shadow of the dome of the rock, Arnulf walks in silence. He has not returned home. He sleeps beneath broken arches. At night, he carves wood in silence, crafting small crosses and figures. He speaks to no one. When asked his name, he simply nods. He has begun to visit a small courtyard where the dead are gathered. He helps bury them, Muslim and Christian alike. He marks each grave with a stone. One day, he discovers a manuscript in Arabic, left in a burned-out school. Though he cannot read it, he carries it with him for days. Eventually, he brings it to a scribe who translates it. It is poetry. Verses about longing, light, and the city. Arnulf does not understand the words fully, but he feels something shift. That night, he buries the manuscript with a simple cross and a stone crescent. Elsewhere, the Crusaders begin debating the shape of their new kingdom. Lands must be divided. Castles manned. Routes secured. Some knights wish to return home, their vows fulfilled. Others see opportunity, fief to claim, trade to dominate, glory to preserve. Godfrey convenes councils to decide governance, but tensions rise between factions. The vision of unity begins to fray. Latin rule must be enforced. A council forms a rudimentary legal code. Curfews are imposed. Taxation discussed. Disputes between European nobles begin to emerge, about precedence, authority, and spoils. Some accuse others of heresy or greed. The seeds of future conflict are planted even as the wounds of the past remain fresh. Meanwhile, Jerusalem itself breathes in fragments. The Jewish quarter is abandoned. Synagogues lie in ruins. The Muslim population has been scattered. In hidden corners, a few Eastern Christian families light incense and whisper prayers. Life does not resume, it limps. One afternoon, a boy named Yusef is pulled from a collapsed cellar by Crusader foot soldiers. Starved and silent, he clutches a leather pouch with family relics. A soldier gestures to kill him. Another stops him. They argue in Latin. Eventually, the boy is taken to a nearby convent where a nun offers him bread and water. He does not speak for days. When he finally does, it is a single word, Jerusalem. Later, Yusef is spotted helping the same nun tend a small herb garden near the convent. He no longer hides when Crusaders pass. One of them, a wounded knight named Thomas, begins teaching him Latin in exchange for Arabic words. They sit under fig trees. They draw maps in the dirt. They speak more with gestures than sentences, but it is enough. As days pass, the blood is washed from the temple stones, but the stain remains in memory. The Crusaders now hold the city, but holding a city is not the same as healing it. The gates are manned. The walls reinforced. Scouts report of Fatimid reinforcements gathering in the south. The threat is not over. Still, each evening, as the sun sinks behind the Mount of Olives, a strange quiet returns. Bells ring from Latin churches. Psalms rise in fractured harmony. A wind carries the voices across rooftops where ravens perch. The sky, once filled with fire and smoke, is now streaked with red and gold. In the ruins of a garden near the northern wall, Layla and her brother emerge from hiding. They walk among broken stone and shattered pottery. She tells him stories of what the city once was. Of markets full of voices. Of olive trees and lanterns. He listens with wide eyes, not knowing if they will stay or flee. One night, they leave a small offering, a candle, a date, a pebble, at the church steps. No one sees them, but someone lights the candle. The crusade has ended. But for Jerusalem, it is only the beginning. Weeks pass. Then months. Word spreads across Europe, Jerusalem has been reclaimed. The holy city is in Christian hands. And so they come, not knights or warriors, but pilgrims. From France, from Italy, from England and the Rhineland. Men and women, old and young, walking with staffs, donkeys, and prayer books. Some arrive barefoot. Others on ships to Jaffa, then by foot across the hills. They sing hymns, whisper psalms, and carry relics. Many weep as they pass through the gates of the city they had only ever known in prayer. The Crusaders who remain look on with mixed feelings. Some resent the pilgrims, calling them naive or burdensome. Others offer guidance, becoming informal guardians or guides. Inns and ghosthouses begin to open. Markets begin to bustle again, albeit cautiously. Jerusalem is changing, not back to what it was, but into something new. The Latin clergy establish a structured religious hierarchy. Arnulf of Chalkes is appointed patriarch. Churches are cleansed and rededicated. Latin becomes the language of liturgy. But under the surface, tensions remain. Eastern Christians, long residents of the city, now find themselves displaced from positions of influence. Their liturgies are discouraged. Some are accused of heresy. The city they helped preserve is no longer theirs. Meanwhile, Godfrey rules as best he can. He walks the streets with guards, visits churches, meets pilgrims, and attends council sessions. His health begins to fail. The wounds and weariness of years past weigh on him. Still, he refuses to leave. I was called here, he says. And here I shall remain. Arnulf, the carpenter, continues his quiet life. He now works in a workshop near the Church of St. Anne, crafting crucifixes and small icons for passing pilgrims. Some recognize his skill. A visiting monk commissions him to carve the stations of the cross into cedar. At night, he walks alone, sometimes stopping by graves, sometimes by ruined wells. the city speaks to him in silence. Layla and her brother, though still hidden, find ways to live. A baker named Elias, an elderly Greek Orthodox Christian, shelters them in his shop cellar. He teaches Layla how to knead dough, how to recognize the heat of an oven by scent. Her brother tends to the animals behind the bakery. Life is still dangerous, but it is life. One day, Layla passes a group of pilgrims gathered outside the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. She listens to their chants, to their foreign tongues. A child among them looks at her and smiles. Layla does not smile back. She looks up at the cross atop the church, then back at the earth. She understands that her Jerusalem is gone, but something else has grown in its place. Trade routes begin to re-establish. Caravans arrive from Acre and Damascus. Spices, silk, and glass return to the stalls. Arabic is spoken again in markets, quietly, and often with glances over the shoulder. Crusader merchants begin to adopt local customs. Food is mixed, pomegranates with bread, dried lamb with olives. Latin and Levantine rhythms begin to dance uneasily together. And still, pilgrims come. Some fall ill and die before reaching the city. Others collapse in joy upon touching the stone where Christ is said to have risen. A few stay forever, becoming monks, nuns, or hermits in caves. Others are robbed on the roads home. Yet each leaves believing they touched the divine. As the year draws to a close, Jerusalem is no longer at war, but it is not at peace. It exists in a strange in-between. A city of ghosts and candles. Of prayers and silence. Of new rulers and old memories. Every stone holds a story. And every shadow, a name. Under the stars, the city breathes. Somewhere, Arnulf carves a final figure into cedar, a woman carrying a child. He places it in a small shrine beneath an olive tree. He lights a candle and walks away. Behind him, the wind carries the faintest echo of bells. Night falls softly over Jerusalem. The wind hushes. The city, layered in centuries, folds into itself. The stars above shimmer faintly over domes and stone rooftops, casting silver outlines on broken walls and tiled courtyards. Torches flicker along the gates, where guards pace slowly. Most have grown used to the silence. Some pray under their breath. Others lean on their spears, watching the darkness beyond the walls. Within the city, most fires have burned down to embers. The baker Elias covers his oven and lays down to rest. Layla and her brother sleep curled together under a wool blanket in the cellar. Her breath slows. His hand clutches a carved wooden figure, perhaps from Arnulf. They do not dream. Arnulf sits on the stone steps outside the church of St. Anne, looking up at the moon. The streets are still. In the distance, a dog barks, then silence returns. He remembers the siege, the sound of ladders against stone, the voices rising in fear, the smell of smoke. But now the city sleeps, and so does the war. At least for a while. In a monastery on the Mount of Olives, a scribe dips his quill into ink and begins a final line. He writes not of battles, but of quiet. Of what it feels like to walk through Jerusalem when the bells are still and the dust settles on everything, even memory. He writes of how wounds, even deep ones, begin to scar. How breath returns slowly to a broken body. A caravan camped just outside the city has gone quiet too. The camels kneel in rows, resting. The travelers whisper under the stars. A mother tells her daughter a story about a lion that once lived near the Jordan River. The daughter asks if it's true. The mother only smiles. By the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, a single candle burns. The wax has dripped down the base and formed a hard shell. A pilgrim left it there hours ago, after weeping for a brother lost on the road. The flame flutters but does not go out. And across the rooftops of the city, the wind moves gently. It carries the scent of fig leaves, old incense, and stone. It glides through arches, brushes over graves, and finds its way into forgotten chambers where no one sleeps, but time lingers. Jerusalem lies still, not healed, but breathing. A city waiting. A city remembering. A city dreaming, perhaps, of something kinder. And as the moon climbs higher, the city disappears slowly into shadow and silence.